a glow where none should be. Lady Bantry slowed the car, her eyes fixed on the church tower. She tapped Miss Marple's arm. "Look there," she whispered. Miss Marple leaned forward. Her knitting lay forgotten on her lap. She followed the direction of Lady Bantry's hand. A thin glow moved across the louvered slats of the belfry. The two women stared. It shifted once, then again. The light was not steady. It looked like a lantern in motion. Lady Bantry frowned. "Impossible. There is no practice tonight." She tightened her grip on the wheel. Her words came sharp. "Major Waring said so himself." Miss Marple nodded. She remembered. The committee meeting only hours ago. Major Waring's voice had been stern. No lanterns, no candles, never in the belfry. His warning had been clear. Fire risk. Tarred ropes. The rule was absolute. Yet the glow was real. It bobbed against the dark shutters. Someone was inside, someone ignoring the rule. Lady Bantry pressed the brake. The motor-car shuddered. She narrowed her eyes at the tower. The glow vanished. Only shadow remained. Miss Marple spoke quietly. Strange indeed. Her eyes stayed on the silent church. She thought of Inspector Slack's warning. Thieves in nearby parishes. Candlesticks taken. Collection plates stolen. Lady Bantry broke the silence. "You think it could be him? That London fellow?" Her voice shook slightly. "Mr. Pike?" He looked far too interested in the silver service. Miss Marple did not answer at once. She thought instead of the verger. Old Potley. His nervous hands. His fear of those steps. Had he gone up there tonight, or was it someone else entirely? Lady Bantry sighed. Perhaps it was just reflection. Her tone lacked conviction. "You saw it as clearly as I did," Miss Marple replied. She folded her hands. Her voice remained calm. "But one must ask why." The car rolled forward again. The village lay still, windows dark, streets empty. Yet both women felt uneasy. That glow had not been an illusion. It had been deliberate. Someone wanted to be seen. Lady Bantry forced a smile. "We'll mention it in the morning." But she glanced back at the tower. Her expression betrayed doubt. She did not believe her own words. Miss Marple stayed quiet. Her mind turned over small details. Major Waring's strictness, the key in Potley's care, the London man's quick eyes, a rule so firm, yet broken before their eyes. The motor-car reached Miss Marple's lane. Lady Bantry pulled to a stop. Marple thanked her with a nod. But her gaze still clung to the tower in the distance. She felt the weight of what she had seen. One rule broken often leads to another, and once broken, rules invite danger. The glow was gone, but someone had been there, watching, moving, planning. The glow had vanished, yet the fear it left behind remained. Bells without hands. Mrs. Price could not sleep. Her baby cried. She carried him to the window. The night was still. Then it came. 3 heavy strokes. From the church tower. The bells shook the air. She froze in place. The baby whimpered. She listened harder. Not a tune. Not a proper peal. Just jerks. Uneven pulls. Clumsy. Her husband stirred. "What on earth is that?" She whispered back. "No practice tonight. None at all." Across the lane, Mr. Redmonds woke. He sat up in bed. He knew the sound of bells. These were wrong, like a novice yanking ropes. He muttered to himself. Not ringers, never trained ringers. By morning, the whole village buzzed. People asked the same question. Who rang the bells? No one had permission. No one should have been inside. At the vicarage, Mrs. Clement was shaken. It woke us both. We thought it must be a dream. The Reverend tried to calm her, but doubt crept across his face. Later that day, he met Miss Marple in the lane. She was trimming her hedge. He stopped. "You heard it too?" Her eyes met his. "I did not hear, but I have been told." He hesitated. "I cannot explain it. I locked the vestry myself. The tower should have been sealed." She nodded slowly. Yet the bells spoke. Her words hung heavy. He swallowed. "Major Waring is looking into it. He is not pleased." At the inn, The gossip grew. Mrs. Baker swore her husband had counted 6 strokes. Others claimed only 3. All agreed it sounded awkward. No rhythm, no skill. The blacksmith insisted it was deliberate. Someone wanted us to wake. That's what it was. The villagers murmured, faces uneasy, eyes glancing toward the church. By evening, Inspector Slack appeared. He questioned Herbert Price. Herbert told him what his wife had said. Slack frowned. No practice. No key issued. Then how? He tapped his notebook. I'll be speaking to the verger. Old Portley trembled when asked. I swear I locked it. Same as always. No one went in. Slack snapped. Then explain the bells at midnight. Portley wrung his hands. I cannot, unless the ropes pulled themselves. The Reverend stepped forward. His voice carried strain. The ropes do not move alone. Someone had to be inside. All eyes turned to him. His lips pressed thin. He added one final fact. The door was checked this morning. His pause was deliberate. The tower door was locked tight. The words dropped like stones. If the door had been locked, then someone had locked it after ringing. Miss Marple looked at him quietly, her voice soft but steady. Locks keep the honest out, Reverend, not the determined. The bells had spoken at midnight, but the tower had been sealed from within. 1 key, 2 stories. Inspector Slack gathered them in the vestry, his notebook open, his face hard. Let's start with the key, he said, his eyes fixed on Portley. You locked the tower last night. Portley nodded quickly. Yes, sir. At 9. Always at 9. Then I gave the key to Major Waring. He wrung his hands. That's what I did. I'm certain. Major Waring stiffened. His voice clipped. That is false. I never had the key. I collected it this morning. It was hanging in the press as usual. Portley's face fell. But, sir, I placed it in your hand. After the meeting, you asked for it. Waring's eyes flashed. Nonsense. You're confused. Perhaps your age. Perhaps your nerves. Inspector Slack cut in. Enough. One of you is lying. Or mistaken. But both cannot be right. He tapped his pen against the page. Mrs. Clement shifted uneasily. I saw Portley with the key, but I cannot say what happened after. I was speaking with Lady Bantry. Miss Marple sat quietly near the window. Her needles moved softly. Her eyes, however, never left the men. Portley lifted his chin. I have handled that key for 40 years. My memory may falter, but I know the weight of it in my hand, and I know when I pass it on. Waring folded his arms. My record stands for itself. I am precise. I do not misplace keys. The idea is absurd. The Reverend cleared his throat. Gentlemen, perhaps the key was borrowed and returned without notice. His voice was hesitant. It may explain both accounts. Slack snapped his notebook shut. Then we have a bigger problem. If the key moved hands unseen, then someone else had access. He glared at both men, and that someone could have rung the bells. Lady Bantry murmured, but if the key was with Major Waring, why deny it? Her question hung unanswered. Miss Marple spoke at last, her tone gentle. Sometimes a truth and a lie walk so close together they almost touch. The danger lies in which one we choose to believe. Portley's shoulders slumped. He whispered, perhaps I dreamed it. I am tired these days. The steps drain me. But his trembling hands betrayed conviction, not doubt. Slack looked down. He had written only 4 words. Key. Confusion. Contradiction. Motive. He turned to leave. Check the tower again. Every inch. Something is wrong. They climbed the first steps. Dust clung to the stone. Cold air pressed against their faces. Then Miss Marple paused. She pointed with her umbrella. There, she said quietly. On the worn stone of the 3rd step lay a faint smear. Yellow, greasy, candle wax. The key was in dispute, but the steps told their own story. Silence above, then shock. The tower door creaked open. Major Waring led the way. Reverend Clement followed. Drayton trailed, clutching his case. Miss Marple came last, eyes sharp. The air grew colder as they climbed. Each step echoed. Potley waited below, too frail to follow. At the top, Waring pushed the chamber door. It groaned wide. He froze. The others crowded behind him. Roland Pike lay on the floor, his body twisted at an unnatural angle. Dust coated his clothes. A dark stain spread beneath his head. The bell ropes swayed faintly above him. Beside his arm lay a broken bell stay, splintered, one end dark with blood. Clement gasped. Dear God. Drayton stepped back, pale. Miss Marple said nothing. Her eyes moved slowly across the scene. Waring barked. Stand back. Nobody touch him. His voice shook despite its force. Clement whispered. An accident? A fall? Miss Marple's quiet reply cut through. Number. Look closer. She pointed with her umbrella. See his sleeve. Resin marks here, but not on his palms. She tilted her head. A bell ringer grips with his hands, not his arm. Drayton bent to check the ropes. His thin voice trembled. Fresh rosin on the tenor sally, but far too high. No ringer would hold there. Waring knelt by the broken stay. He touched the splintered edge. This wood was weakened, intentionally. Ash does not break like this. The Reverend stared. Then he was struck down, not by accident. His face drained of color. Miss Marple moved toward the narrow window. On the ledge she found small crumbs. Waxy. Still soft. She held one to the light. Candle drippings, fresh. Silence spread across the chamber. No one spoke. The broken wood, the misplaced resin, the wax on the stone, all told the same story. Footsteps pounded on the stair. Inspector Slack appeared, red-faced, notebook in hand. He stopped in the doorway. His eyes locked on the body. He surveyed the scene quickly. His jaw tightened. He snapped his book open. Clear the chamber. All of you. Now. Clement stammered. But Inspector Slack cut him off. This is no accident, no mishap, no fall. He pointed to the broken stay. He pointed to the wax. He pointed to Pike. His voice rang sharp. This is murder. The group recoiled. The words settled heavy. Murder in their church. Murder in their tower. Miss Marple lowered her eyes. Her needles rested in her bag. Her voice came soft. Human hands did this, and human hands always leave a trace. Inspector Slack declared it murder, but the signs showed more than one truth waiting to be uncovered. Wrong place, wrong key. The vestry door was opened. Mrs. Clement led the way. She carried the collection list. Her duty was simple. Count coins. She gasped. Her voice rang out. Inspector, come quickly. Slack strode across the nave. What now? She pointed down into the poor box. Look, there, at the bottom. The iron key lay among pennies and shillings. The tower key. Large, heavy, impossible to mistake. Slack crouched low. He frowned. This makes no sense. It was on the hook this morning. I saw it myself. Mrs. Clement shook her head. It was not here yesterday. I checked before banking the money. The box was clean. Drayton leaned close. Too large for the slot. He tapped the narrow opening on top. No one could drop it through. Slack ran his hand across the wood. Fresh scratches scarred the edge, bright against the dark grain. He tugged a thread of twine caught in the splinter. Someone forced it in, lowered with string. Lady Bantry shuddered. To make it look secure all along. Miss Marple bent down. She picked up a stick half hidden beneath the chest, 18 inches long. Twine knotted round the end. Crude, but effective. Waring's jaw tightened. Then, whoever did this meant to trick us, to show the key was safe when it was not. Slack straightened, his voice sharp. A false trail. A planted lie. Someone used this key in the night and then staged its return. Potley's lips trembled. I swear it was safe. I saw it after prayers. Hanging on the hook. I know I did. Waring barked back. You said the same yesterday. Now it lies in the poor box. Which account should we believe? The Reverend raised his hands. Enough. Quarrelling serves no one. The fact is plain. The tower was not secure. The group fell silent. The bell ropes swayed faintly above them. The echoes of Pike's death lingered in the walls. Slack noted the details in his book. Key forced through slot, twine marks, scratches, tool left behind, every line a puzzle piece. Miss Marple looked at the key once more, her voice quiet. Too neat, too careful. She glanced at Slack. False neatness always reveals itself. People try too hard to cover truth. That effort becomes the clue. The inspector studied her. He knew her reputation, but he gave no reply. Instead, he turned away and barked for constables. Orders followed. Seal the vestry. Keep watch at night. Note every movement. The key gleamed faintly in the pile of coins. Out of place, out of time. It had been carried, forced, staged. Miss Marple's eyes softened. Her words lingered. Truth hides in small errors. We need only patience to see them. The tower key had been returned too carefully, and careful hands always betray themselves. A flame that measures time. Potley entered the vestry. He carried a packet of altar candles. His hands shook. He stammered. One is gone. There should be 12. Now only 11. Inspector Slack seized the packet. He counted quickly. His face hardened. Missing. Just as you say. Miss Marple touched the remaining candles. She rubbed the surface with her gloved hand. The wax was coarse. It left a crumbly trace on her fingers. She looked at Slack. These are not like household candles. They burn slowly. They leave a residue. The same residue found on the tower steps. Slack frowned. You mean the smear? Marple nodded. Yes. The wax on the stone was from one of these, not from any common candle. Lady Bantry gasped. So the missing one was taken up there? Her voice faltered. For light? Marple's eyes narrowed. Perhaps not for light at all. For something else. Drayton leaned forward. What then? His tone betrayed unease. Marple spoke calmly. A tallow candle burns at a steady pace. You can measure its time, burn it to a set point, then let it cut through twine. The flame becomes a clock, and when the twine parts, a weight falls. The rope jerks. The bell speaks. The room grew still. No one moved. The theory settled heavy. Slack tapped his pen against the desk. A timing device. So the bells rang when no one was inside. His eyes darkened. Which means Pike may have been killed earlier. The bells only tricked us into thinking it was midnight. Clement's lips trembled. Good Lord. Then the whole village was deceived. Miss Cray crossed her arms. A contraption like that requires skill, careful planning. Who here could design such a thing? All eyes shifted. Slowly. Toward Major Waring. He stood rigid. His jaw clenched. His fists curled. I will not have my honor questioned. I was with the Clements until after midnight. Cards. They will confirm. Mrs. Clement spoke softly. Yes, he was with us. But he borrowed sealing wax. For a parcel, he said, a red stick from the desk. Marple's gaze sharpened. Sealing wax? Useful for fixing twine to a wheel or rope. It hardens fast, holds firm, ideal for such a device. Slack's pen scratched furiously in his book. He muttered, sealing wax, candle, weight, rope, all a line. Waring's face flushed. His hand trembled. I borrowed it, yes, for parish use, nothing more. The vestry fell silent. Each person felt the weight of suspicion. Even Potley stared at Waring with wide eyes. Miss Marple folded her hands, her voice low. Truth does not shout. It whispers, and it whispers now, through wax. Major Waring's hand shook as every eye in the room turned toward him. The killer sends a message. Lady Bantry bent to pick up the Morning Post. 3 envelopes, and 1 small card. She froze. It was edged in black, morning style. No stamp, no address, only slipped under the door. She opened it with trembling hands. Her eyes widened. The writing was neat. 1 short line. "You mourn too soon." Her breath caught. She dropped the card onto the hall table. "Arthur!" she called. Her husband hurried in. He read the words. His brow furrowed. Who would dare send this? She wasted no time. She drove straight to Miss Marple's cottage, the card still in her hand. Miss Marple studied it carefully. The edges thick with ink, the script precise, but no signature. "Delivered by hand," she murmured. "No child's prank. This is deliberate." Lady Bantry's voice shook. "It mocks us. It mocks Pike's death." Inspector Slack arrived within the hour. He snatched the card, his lip curled. Sick joke. Someone with twisted humor. He tossed it down again. "But who knew you would see it first?" Miss Marple tapped the edge. "Notice the ink. Too dark. Fresh. Written late in the night. After the bells. After the body was found." Slack muttered. So the writer was close. Watching. Listening. Mrs. Clement entered quietly. She had heard the news. She stared at the card, her face pale. "Then the killer is not finished." Lady Bantry's eyes darted. Could it be Major Waring, or Drayton, or even Pottle? Marple shook her head. "Speculation serves little. We must think. Who gains by fear? Who gains by message?" Slack slammed his notebook shut. "I'll question every house near the vicarage. Someone saw movement in the night." Drayton was summoned. He read the line. He grew pale, his lips tight. He muttered, "Too cruel, too exact." Potley followed. He trembled at the sight. He whispered, "Only one man I know wrote like that, Pike himself." Then he crossed himself quickly, as if frightened by his own words. Marple's eyes lingered on him. She asked no question, but she noted his fear. Lady Bantry folded her arms. "It means the killer is bold. He leaves tokens. He wants us unsettled." Marple's tone grew firm. "Yes, a man who cannot resist leaving a sign will always betray himself in time. Pride blinds him. Pride compels him." The room fell silent. The card lay between them all. Stark, mocking, a reminder of death, and a promise of more. Miss Marple lifted her head, her voice steady. "He is watching us. Not just one enemy." Miss Marple sat in the choir stalls, her hands folded neatly, her eyes fixed on Leonard Drayton. He shuffled papers at the organ, his face tight, his movements sharp. Marple spoke gently. "Mr. Drayton, you knew Mr. Pike well?" Drayton's head jerked. "Hardly. He meddled where he should not. He questioned my work. He called the organ old timber. Said it might fetch a price." His voice cracked. "He insulted the one thing I serve with care." Marple watched him quietly. Such words wound. A man who lives for his duty. Drayton muttered. "He said he could arrange buyers in London. That pipes, music, books, even the case might tempt collectors. I told him he was a thief." He laughed. Lady Bantry, standing nearby, frowned. So Pike's greed went beyond the bells. Drayton's hands trembled on the keys. "He threatened me, said I would be cast aside when the parish modernized. He wanted my place gone. He wanted money from what he could strip." Marple noted his anger, a bitterness that had grown for years. Later, Miss Cray joined them, her face stern, her voice cold. "Do not think I will defend Pike." He sneered at the choir. He spoke of hymnals as if they were rubbish. He even eyed the silver chalice, said it could fill his pocket faster than Sunday plate. Slack, who had entered, raised his brow. "So the man made enemies on every side." Miss Cray nodded sharply. "He mocked tradition. He mocked service. He wanted nothing but profit. I told him I would never permit such desecration." The Reverend listened in silence. He rubbed his temples. Then Pike was not merely a visitor. He was a danger to our church itself. Suspense tag. Hidden rival motive. Lady Bantry whispered to Marple. First Major Waring, now Drayton. Even Miss Cray. It seems everyone quarrelled with him, Marple answered softly. Yes, a man who touches too many nerves invites too many grudges. Slack slammed his notebook shut. So, we have 3 with reason. Waring, Drayton, Cray, and perhaps more, enough motive to hang half the parish. Miss Marple leaned on her umbrella, her eyes lowered. But only one set the candle, only one placed the key, only one built a trick for the bells. The group fell silent. Resentment alone did not prove guilt, yet it widened the field. The truth had grown darker, not clearer. Marple's voice, almost a whisper, carried through the quiet. Hatred spreads quickly when greed feeds it, and once spread, it rarely stays with one heart alone. Miss Marple raised her head. There was not one enemy, there were many, and each could have struck. A knot never lies. Miss Marple arranged a small task. Simple parcels, string and brown paper. She invited the suspects one by one. Lady Bantry raised her brow. What is this for? Marple only smiled. Practice. Observation can be most revealing. First came Leonard Drayton. He bent quickly to the paper. His fingers fumbled. The string slipped. He cursed under his breath. He tied the ends together in a clumsy knot. Loose, crooked, slack at the corners. Marple leaned forward. Not careful, Mr. Drayton. He flushed. I am an organist, not a sailor. Next came Major Waring. He squared the parcel firmly. His hands moved with crisp control. He looped the string twice. The knot came tight and perfect. A reef knot, flat, precise, the kind drilled into soldiers, the kind that never slipped. Lady Bantry whispered to Marple. He ties as though it were second nature. Marple gave no reply. Her eyes stayed on the knot. Miss Cray followed. She tied hers in haste, uneven, knotted twice over for safety. A poor show of skill. Inspector Slack observed all 3. He muttered. 2 useless, 1 expert. Noted. Marple remained silent. She opened her reticule. From it she drew a short length of rope. Cut from the bell chamber. She laid it on the table. All eyes turned to it. The end was frayed. A knot clung still, half-formed, tight yet crooked. Slack frowned. That is no granny knot, not Miss Cray's style, not Drayton's either, but not a soldier's clean reef knot. It looks rushed. Marple nodded slowly. Yes, it is a reef knot, but hurried, imperfect, tied under strain, by one trained to do it well, but forced to finish in haste. Waring's eyes narrowed, his hand twitched. He said nothing. Drayton stepped closer, his face pale. So the killer knew reef knots. That limits the field. Slack tapped the rope with his pen. Or it points to one man. Silence thickened. Every eye turned to Major Waring. He drew a breath. I will not stand accused on a knot alone. But his voice shook. The firmness was gone. Miss Marple spoke softly. A knot tells its story, Major. It tells of habit, of training, of urgency. This one tells of knowledge rushed by fear. The Reverend looked troubled. So the murderer tied in darkness, quickly, knowing time was short. Marple folded her hands. Fear leaves traces, even in rope. The rope on the table showed a reef knot, tied in haste, and everyone knew who tied reef knots best. Sabotage strikes again. Inspector Slack climbed the tower. 2 constables followed behind. He barked at them. Check every beam, every rope, no more mistakes. The bell chamber stood silent. The ropes hung loose. Slack pulled one hard. It moved. Dust shook down. He crouched to inspect. His hand froze. The rope fibers were split, half cut through. One more pull, and it would have snapped. He tugged again. The strand frayed further. The rope whined. He let go fast. His face darkened. Look at this, he growled. The constables leaned closer. The rope had been sliced with a blade. Clean. Deliberate. Not where, not age. Slack spat the words, sabotage, clear as daylight. Suspense tag, second sabotage attempt. He tested another rope. Solid, firm. Only one had been tampered, the one he pulled. The one under his own hands. A constable swallowed hard. "Sir, it was meant for you." Slack's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitened, or for anyone who dared to test it. Miss Marple appeared at the doorway. She had followed quietly. Her eyes moved from rope to rope. She spoke gently. Not accident, not carelessness. A warning. Slack turned sharply. "A warning to me?" "I was next." She shook her head. "Not next. Still present. Whoever did this remains among us, bold enough to try again." Lady Bantry climbed the last step, breathless. She saw the rope, her face drained. They cut it to kill. Drayton arrived moments later. He stared at the frayed strands. His lips moved, but no sound came. Waring stood behind him, his voice flat. "This proves nothing. Anyone could take a knife to hemp." Slack wheeled on him. "This proves intent, Major, and intent is murder." Potley arrived last. He clung to the wall, panting. His eyes filled with tears. "Our tower cursed, our bells tainted." Marple touched the rope lightly with her umbrella. She whispered, "Not cursed. Planned. Someone worked in darkness. Someone knew you would test the ropes, Inspector." Slack's face hardened further. His eyes narrowed. His voice dropped to a growl. "He wanted me dead too." Slack clenched the frayed rope. "If he dares strike at me, then he stands too close, and I will find him. Money breeds secrets." Inspector Slack slammed a letter on the vestry table. "Found in Major Waring's bag." "Explain this." Waring's face hardened. He unfolded the paper slowly, his lips pressed thin. The letter bore a London seal, a dealer in antiquities. It spoke plainly. Sanctus Bell, high value. Buyer, prepared. Lady Bantry gasped. "You meant to sell our bell?" Waring snapped back. "I meant nothing. It was a mere inquiry. Nothing agreed. I sought advice." Slack's voice cut sharp. "Advice on how to betray your church." The Reverend stepped forward. His hands shook. "Major, this bell is sacred. You knew that." Waring's face flushed red. "You think me a thief? I served my country. I serve my parish. I would not stoop to crime." Miss Marple's eyes stayed on the page, her voice calm. "The writing is clear. A buyer was ready. Whether you meant to take it further, only you." "No." Drayton spoke suddenly. "Pike knew of it. He taunted me with it. He said soon the bells would be gone, the choir dismissed, and I cast aside. He knew your dealings, Major. He enjoyed it." Miss Cray added bitterly. "He mocked me as well. Said hymnals could be sold like scraps. He wanted profit from every corner." Slack tapped the letter. "So Pike had more than one tool for pressure. Blackmail here, insults there. He dangled ruin over all your heads." Potley wrung his hands. "He came to me too. Spoke of relics in the crypt. Said even they had price. I told him no, but he laughed." Waring's voice grew hoarse. "So it was not only me. He twisted each of us. He wanted us cornered. He wanted us desperate." Marple folded her hands. Her eyes moved from face to face. "A man who trades in secrets leaves enemies wherever he treads. Each one fears exposure. Each one resents him." Slack grunted. "And each one had cause to silence him." Silence settled. The letter lay in the center, a single page, but heavy as stone. Lady Bantry whispered, "It seemed simple once. Now it spreads wider. Too many had reason." Miss Marple spoke softly. "The truth widens, not narrows. That is the way of such men. They weave a net of grievances until one thread snaps. And in that snap lies murder." Her eyes rested on the letter once more. She said no more. Miss Marple's voice cut the silence. "It widens, not narrows. The weak link trembles. Potley sat in the vestry chair. His hands shook, his head bowed low. Inspector Slack leaned over him. "Speak clearly, man. Did you give the key to Major Waring or not?" Potley's lips quivered. "I thought I did. I cannot be sure. My mind plays tricks. The days blur. Sometimes I dream I have done things that I have not." Slack's eyes narrowed. "You told us twice. Once with certainty. Now you hesitate. Which version is true?" Potley wrung his cap. "I am old. My memory slips. I swear I handed it to him. But perhaps it was another day. Perhaps I imagined it." Lady Bantry sighed. "Then how can we trust anything you've said?" The Reverend raised a hand. "Harshness will not help. Age clouds many faithful servants. Potley has kept these doors for 40 years, Drayton muttered. 40 years is long enough to grow careless." Potley's eyes filled with tears. "I lock as I always did. I never shirked. But last night, I do not know. I see myself passing the key. Then I see it still on the hook. Both pictures live in my head." Miss Cray spoke coldly. "Convenient. A memory that bends both ways." Slack slapped his notebook shut. "This is useless. A man who cannot swear to one fact weakens every case. Either he gave it or he didn't." Potley's shoulders slumped. "I wish I knew. I fear my mind is failing." Miss Marple's voice broke the silence. Gentle. Calm. "Sometimes, Mr. Potley, confusion hides more than weakness. Sometimes it hides fear." Potley looked up, startled. "Fear, ma'am? I am only an old man." She studied him closely. "An old man with shaking hands. But your sleeve, Mr. Potley, it tells more than your words." All eyes turned. On the cuff of his coat clung faint crumbs. Soft, greasy, wax. Slack bent down to see. He scraped a fleck with his nail. He held it to the light. His voice grew grim. "Candle wax. The same as in the tower." Lady Bantry gasped. "Then he was there?" Drayton hissed. "So his memory fails when it suits him." Potley shook his head wildly. "No, I never climbed. I swear it. I do not touch those ropes. The steps make me faint." Marple's tone stayed soft. "Yet your sleeve speaks for you. Candles stain without asking. They leave their trace, even when memory denies it." Potley buried his face in his hands. "I do not know what to believe any more. Perhaps I walked in my sleep. Perhaps I carried a candle without knowing." The room grew heavy with silence. No one answered him. Miss Marple leaned closer, eyes on his sleeve. "Truth does not fade, Mr. Potley. It clings, like wax." Midnight was a lie. The vestry table was cleared. Miss Marple placed a candle in the center. She fixed a string to it. At the other end, she tied a small weight. Inspector Slack folded his arms. "What's this game, then?" Marple lit the candle, her hand steady. She spoke gently. "Watch. The flame eats the wax. Slowly. But when it reaches the string will burn. When it breaks, the weight will fall. The rope will jerk." Lady Bantry leaned close, her eyes wide. "So the bell ropes could be pulled, without a hand?" Marple nodded. "Yes. A flame that measures time. The bells could ring at midnight, but the hand that set the device could be far away by then," Slack muttered. "Then Pike was dead before the bells rang." The Reverend's face turned pale. "All of us thought the murder happened at midnight. But the bells lied." Miss Cray pressed her lips tight. "Then all alibis for midnight mean nothing. They prove nothing." Slack smacked his fist against the table. "Exactly. We must look earlier. Hours earlier. Where was Pike before midnight?" Drayton stammered. "I saw him near the organ. He asked questions about the pipes. He seemed restless. Then he vanished." Potley shook his head. "I heard his voice near the tower before prayers. He wanted to know how the ropes were fixed." Lady Bantry frowned. "And Waring?" "He swore he was with the Clements." Mrs. Clement confirmed softly. "Yes, cards until past midnight. He was with us." Slack turned sharp to Marple. "There, a solid alibi. unless your trick proves more. Marple lifted the weight from the table. The string snapped free. The weight dropped. It struck the wood with a sharp thud. She looked up. Pike's death was staged to look later. Midnight was a mask. The true hour is hidden. Waring's chin rose. My alibi stands. I was not near the tower then. You may glare all you wish, but the facts are clear. Drayton sneered. Too convenient. The perfect alibi, while the rest of us flounder. Slack grunted. He's right. A trick like this requires planning. Planning takes discipline, and Major, discipline is your mark. Waring's hands clenched. You have no proof, only a theory and an old woman's toy. Miss Marple's eyes softened, her voice steady. The toy is truth, Major. Midnight was a lie, and lies often protect the guilty. The room fell silent. The candles smoked. The string lay in ashes. Waring stood firm, his voice sharp. My card game alibi holds. You will not shake it. Coal dust tells truth. Inspector Slack set a coal scuttle on the table. It had been fetched from the tower stairs. The rim was blackened. The inside coated thick with dust. Slack turned to Drayton. You use this? Drayton shook his head. I have no reason to. My work is music, not coal. Miss Marple looked at his sleeve. Her eyes narrowed. Then why is your cuff still stained? All eyes turned. On the pale fabric clung a smear, black, grainy, coal dust. Drayton flushed. He rubbed at it quickly. It is nothing. I brushed against something. Marple's tone remained gentle. Dust like that clings only to what it knows. The scuttle, the one used to weigh the rope. Slack seized the scuttle. He pointed to faint marks inside. A candle was fixed here. Wax hardened along the edge. The weight was set within. When the string burned, the scuttle fell. It pulled the rope. The bells rang. The Reverend swallowed. So this was the trick. A device of candle, twine, and coal. Slack glared at Drayton. You said you had no skill. Yet who else had such knowledge? Pipes, levers, weights. Your work is mechanics as much as music. Lady Bantry spoke low. He could build such a device. He understands how balance works. Drayton stammered. Anyone could have placed it. Waring. Even Potley. Why single me out? Miss Cray snapped. Because Pike taunted you more than any of us. You hated him. You had cause. Drayton's lips pressed tight. He mocked me. Yes. He called me a failure. He said the choir was useless. But words are not proof. Slack jabbed his pen at the stain. This is proof. Your sleeve betrayed you. Dust from the scuttle. Wax from the candle. You were there. Potley whispered from the corner. I saw a shadow near the stairs. I thought it was my eyes. Perhaps it was him. The Reverend looked down, his voice heavy. God help us if the man trusted with music turned to murder. Drayton's fists clenched, his face pale, his breath short. Marple's voice was calm. Truth clings in the smallest places. Coal does not lie. It marks what it touches. And it touched you, Mr. Drayton. The room held its breath. The scuttle stood in the center. The stain on his sleeve spoke louder than words. Drayton glared at Miss Marple, lips trembling, as though a confession fought to break free. Motive means moment. Inspector Slack rose from his chair, his voice sharp. Enough hiding. The pieces fit. Drayton, it is you. Drayton shook his head quickly. Number lies. Accusations without proof. Miss Marple spoke softly. There is proof. More than you think. She held up the stained cuff. Coal dust shows you handled the scuttle. The scuttle held the candle. The candle cut the string. The bells rang alone. Drayton's face darkened. You twist shadows into guilt. Marple continued. Pike threatened your position. He told you the organ funds would be diverted. He mocked you before others. He promised you would be cast aside. Lady Bantry added quietly. And he enjoyed your humiliation. The Reverend nodded sadly. He boasted in my hearing. He said Drayton was finished. Drayton's lips tightened. He said worse. He said I would beg him for work when the choir was gone. He laughed at me. Slack barked. So you lured him to the tower, promised to show him the bells. There you struck him. The bell stay was broken to look like accident. Then you staged the trick with the candle. The village thought it midnight, but he was dead long before. Miss Cray's eyes filled with tears. And all for pride and anger. Drayton's voice shook. He left me no choice. He sought to ruin me, my life's work, my only place of honor. Marple's tone stayed calm. No man leaves us no choice. We choose always. You chose murder. Slack stepped forward. Confess, or I'll drag it out piece by piece. Drayton's chest heaved. He gripped the table edge, his eyes wild. You think yourselves better? You think you understand? He destroyed me before I struck him. I only finished the ruin he began. Lady Bantry turned away. She whispered, so much hatred, hidden behind music. Potley muttered from the corner, and I thought the bells holy. Marple's eyes softened. Even holy things are used by human hands, and those hands carry weakness. That weakness brought us here. Slack snapped open his cuffs. Enough words. You are under arrest. Drayton glared at Miss Marple, his lips curled. You, meddling old. Slack seized him before he could finish. Truth rings longer than lies. The church bells stood silent. Their ropes hung still. The scandal lingered like dust. Major Waring sat stiff in his pew. Inspector Slack closed his notebook. He spoke bluntly. You are cleared of the murder, but not of deceit. This letter to the London dealer will follow you. Your name may never heal. Waring gave no reply. His shoulders slumped, the pride of his posture gone. Pottle entered quietly. He removed his cap, his eyes wet. I can no longer serve. My hands tremble. My mind falters. I will leave my post. The Reverend placed a hand on his arm. You gave years of service. No one can take that away. Go with peace. Potley nodded. He walked slowly down the aisle, his steps uneven, each one heavier than the last. Mrs. Clement whispered to Lady Bantry. Sad. He gave his life to this place, and now he leaves broken. Lady Bantry sighed. So many losses, so many wounds. The Reverend turned to Miss Marple, his face drawn. Our church is scarred. Gossip spreads. Trust fades. This place will not be the same. Marple's eyes softened. Her voice was calm. Scandals pass, Reverend, but they leave their trace. Bells will ring again, but their echo will carry more than sound. They will carry memory. Slack shut the vestry door, his tone gruff. Case closed, but I wonder who else Pike threatened. There may be letters still hidden, secrets buried. Marple looked down at the table. A single candle stub lay in a dish. She touched it gently with her gloved finger. Candles burn down, but secrets always leave smoke. Silence filled the room. The weight of her words settled. Every face reflected on what had been lost. Not just a life, but trust. Lady Bantry spoke at last. I thought the light in the tower was simple mischief. Now I see it was much darker. We looked up at a glow. We did not see the shadow behind it. Marple gave a small nod. We rarely do. Human nature hides its faults until a spark reveals them. The Reverend sighed deeply, his voice tired. Let us pray for peace, and for strength to rebuild what remains. Potley's cap lay forgotten on the bench. A symbol of service ended. The parish would carry that silence too. Marple gathered her knitting. She rose, her face quiet, her eyes thoughtful. She had seen many endings. Each carried pain. Each carried truth. Then came a knock. Lady Bantry bent to the door. She stooped, lifted an envelope. Her hands shook, black-edged, unsigned. The same cruel mark. Another condolence card. The card lay open on the table. Another message had arrived, and no one knew from whom.